Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us for, I guess, the October part 2, Windows in the Cloud. Now that's October 30th. Ask Microsoft anything. So thank you for joining today. Per usual, I have an amazing round of guests today. And today's topics will be just general quarterly-ish update. So I'm going to let the guests introduce themselves, and then I'll go ahead and get into some announcements of all the awesome stuff for Windows 365 since July. So Robert, you're at the top of the list. I'll start with you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. My name is Robert Nishi. I'm with what we call the Customer Acceleration Team. I work with customers that are either thinking about or deploying Azure Virtual Desktop or Windows 365, and get to hear what you want out of the product. That's my job, and let these guys know that's my job.
Awesome. Eric?
Robert lives down the street from me, just like right around the corner.
This is really true.
We should have just met up. I'm Eric Orman. I'm a PM lead on the Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop engineering team. I'm a peer of Christian, and that's me. On to you, John.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here with you. I work on the client experience. So if you have any questions on the Windows app, I would love to answer them.
Perfect. And then as a reminder, yes, I am a colleague of Eric's. Work also closely with John and obviously Robert as well. And I'm a PM lead for the Windows 365 Switch and Windows 365 Boot experiences to essentially get you integrated and connected to your cloud PC. So yeah, let's get into the announcements. We have quite a few today. Again, we want to use today essentially as a reflection point. Ignite is coming up. And we've done a lot of work leading up to Ignite that we want to remind you of. And then all the Ignite goodies on top of that will be nice in a couple of weeks. But for things leading up to Ignite, for the admin experiences, we updated the gallery images for Windows 11 version 24H2. Those are live now. So you'll see the Microsoft 365 apps and then the standard image. And those now have the new Teams experience, and also have the new Teams VDI Slim Core, which is a more optimized experience, and we can get into that in a bit. We also have on the admin side Cloud PC reports. We have an unavailable Cloud PCs report to help you figure out which Cloud PCs are being utilized, which ones are actually just not even available, and you need to start troubleshooting or looking into. And then last one on the admin side is Shortpath. That went live, I believe, last month. So the relayed RDP Shortpath through Turn, that's available for Windows 365 customers along with AVD customers. From the user experience, John alluded to it earlier, Windows app went GA for most platforms, which is awesome. So iOS, macOS, and Windows, and then the web client. So you can check out more info on Windows app through the ak.ms/Windows app GA. Also, what went live recently was our MMR Call Redirection. You can find more info at the ak.ms/MMR Call Redirection GA blog. And that's if you're using web apps that are calling apps, telephony apps, like Content Guru within your Cloud PC session. You can now take those and it gets redirected locally. Again, we can dive into that later, but very exciting for you and maybe your ISV developers to build on top of. And then the last piece that went preview recently is FIDO key devices and passkeys on macOS and iOS. So John, we might get into that, but that went to preview very recently. For offerings, again, over the summer in July, we announced the GA of the GPU SKU for Windows 365. And so we're excited as we are seeing more adoption of that with our customers. For steps on how to do that for licenses and also how to configure it, you can look at ak.ms/enable GPU acceleration. And then also for our frontline offering, Citrix HDX Plus has added support for connecting to our frontline cloud PCs. So that's a very long link. AK.ms HDX Plus for Windows 365 deep dive. And lastly, I want to cover this amazing area. Leading up to this episode, I didn't realize how much we worked with our partners this quarter and how much we released. So, excuse me as I go through each one, but HP Anywhere went GA for Windows 365. So that link is HP Anywhere for Windows 365 GA. What also went GA was our integration. So Omnissa Horizon for Windows 365. So both of those went GA in the past couple of months. Omnissa Horizon for Windows 365 GA. And lastly, again, I mentioned the Citrix HDX Plus for Frontline GA or for Frontline. So a lot of partner stuff, a lot of just product stuff. So I know that was a mouthful. What I want to leave you with is keep using the what's new. That's where all this information was from. So our aka.ms /W365 what's new. I gave you a shorter condensed list. Please go there for everything that we've been working on the past couple months. Woo! All right. Well, that was a little bit longer than usual. Thank you for my guests. Yeah, thank you for being patient with me, everyone. So, all right. So, folks, if you have questions, please put them in the chat where you're joining from. YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Tech Community, anywhere. Please post some questions. So actually, the first one we have was related to one of the earlier announcements from X. I'm not really clear on what Shortpath does. When and how should I use it? Either maybe Eric or Robert?
Yeah, I can go over this. I've got actually a cool slide. So we'll be able to go to that. Let me pull it up right here. So Samuel, our producer, is in the background. You can't see him, but he does all the magic. So I want to give my hats off to Samuel for being the producer and dealing with us in this. So up here on the screen is a slide that I recently presented at a conference last week in Florida. It was called MMS. If you've never been to an MMS, have heard of MMS, maybe one of our producers could put a link up. But it's an event primarily targeted towards the Intune config manager community. They have a few every year. I went to the one in Florida. They have the big one is in the springtime at the Mall of America, MOA. So I'll leave it the other side, but I got to present 3 sessions at MMS, and one of the top questions was, we hear a lot about Shortpath, like help me understand what that means. How does that work? And so I created this slide here. It's not animated, but I can kind of walk you through how it works. So there's really 2 flavors of UDP. We've got stun and we've got turn. So in this view here, the item that has a number 1 is a UDP connection that we often call stun. Shortpath and that, I'm kind of do away with those terms. I'm just going to talk really specifically to these ones. So a stun connection. And so if you're on Windows 365, let me preface this. If you're on Windows 365 and you're doing a connection, this is the magic that makes that connection possible. Like this behavior, you don't have to go and turn anything on. This is just how it works in Windows 365. When you try to connect to a cloud PC, is we'll first try a stun connection. That's a peer-to-peer connection. It's UDP based. It will be attempted first, and if that works, then that's what will be established. If we can't establish that UDP connection, then we're going to go to use a turn connection. It's still UDP based. It leverages the relay servers, the same relay servers that Teams does, and so they are geographically located. The relay servers, they're still UDP based, and so you get that great WAN optimization capabilities of a UDP connection. And if we can't establish those, then we fall back to leverage our Azure Virtual Desktop Gateway, which is a TCP-based connection. As we know, TCP-based is not a WAN optimized connection, but it works great. And that's what we've had for a long time in AVD and Windows 365. And if you haven't caught my hint, the connection for AVD and Windows 365, we use the same clients, the Windows app. John could talk about that. we use the same connection architecture and flow. And so this applies to both AVD and Windows 365. So that's kind of how it works under the covers, to really describe it. So I hope that provides some greater understanding technically, but also just in the broader sense of how it works.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good slide. And one thing I want to reinforce for the listeners is that in all of these connection types and options, you still get the same security that we mentioned through AVD and Windows 365, meaning you don't have to open inbound ports to the VM. Everything on the VM side is outbound. So that way it is going through either, the stun is going through like the network routers that you have locally, or the turn and the gateways are leveraging these relays to connect the user, but everything is outbound from the VM. So yeah, I know that the peer-to-peer has the box poking into the box into that VM, but all the negotiation, all the actual connection is made through outbound. Perfect. So yeah, if there's any more questions, we can always come back to this, folks. But if you're here, we'll spend another couple seconds on it. Feel free to screenshot it.
The
And
one thing I forgot to mention about all of this is if you're using AVD, you can go to the host pool settings and you can actually turn off UDP for turn and stun if you so desire. The big thing about this is in AVD on your virtual network, you need to make sure that certain ports are open for this. And so that's kind of one of the big reasons why we don't see a lot of UDP connections is when an admin has really locked down their VNet and only allowing certain outbound ports and IP addresses. So make sure that you read our documentation and understand the requirements in order to use this. And so that might be a next step in terms of what if you're not getting these type of connections or you're not getting the experience of it. And how you know that you're getting these type of connections in the Windows app is great. I'll refer to John here again, but the little connection bar up at the top, there's the little the bars kind of much like your cell phone. It shows the signal strength. If you click on that, it's going to show a log file. And in there, it'll tell you the type of connection, whether it's a UDP connection or a UDP relay or a TCP based. And so if it's TCP based, it's using our gateway. If it just says UDP, that means it's the peer-to-peer item number 1 on the screen here. And if it says UDP relay, then it's using turn.
perfect. And then yeah, so if we can just we have the link again for everything that Eric was mentioning, all the documentation, the ports, and everything. So that was the ak.ms/relayed RDP Shortpath. So take a look. Go to a link now and favorite it if you want to come back to it. But yeah, if there's any more questions you have, we will be here to answer them. All right. Sweet. Let's go on to the next question. So from Tech Community, from David from Tech Community, how can you force Company Portal app to update on machines when the store does not see the update? I'm curious if there's a PowerShell script to force it to install newest update 11.2.1002.0. I've tried some things, but nothing successful. If you have that, that'd be great. Robert, do you know this?
I don't. If the store is not seeing it, and it's a Company Portal being a store app, yeah, that's a doozy. Can't think of anything off the top of my head. If PowerShell executing on it isn't gonna find it either. Winget is also another method outside of PowerShell, really, just to kind of leveraging PowerShell to see if that'll understand and see if it's there and do the download and install. But if it's not being found, I think that's sort of the challenge. honestly don't know. Wing It has been typically pretty successful for me and reliable for me. So that would be the path if you haven't tried that yet, to give it a try. I don't know if Eric, John, Primo, you guys have anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe Eric. I know you play a lot with management and company portal, so I don't know if you have any other guidance here.
Yeah, it could be a variety of different things. Reboot is always a really good thing to do on your PC, but it should be checking quite frequently for new applications and such. It's every couple hours, so something's going on with that. Encourage you to open a support case.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us know if that works, or you have a support case, and hopefully you get that resolved. From LinkedIn, John, I think this is a question that you can help with. From Keaton on LinkedIn. To confirm, the Azure Virtual Desktop app in the Microsoft Store is no longer available for download or installation starting November 27th. If yes, will the Store Remote Desktop app have an option to connect to an on-prem server, or will the Windows app also do that?
Yeah, good question. So to answer the first question there on the AVD app in the Microsoft Store, that's correct. It will no longer be available for download or installation on November 27th. And we are really pushing customers to move to the Windows app for Windows. But to your point on connecting to an on-prem server, that is functionality that's coming soon to the Windows app on Windows. So we understand that as part of your migration, you may have to use another application in the short term while that functionality is still coming to the Windows app. So hopefully that answers your question.
And John, which app should folks use if they're connecting to remote desktop services? So from Windows, what app or client should they be using?
Yeah, so that would be, as the poster mentioned, the remote desktop app on the Microsoft Store.
Okay, cool. And then the peer-to-peer, is that available in the Windows app yet?
That is also coming soon.
Okay.
So we really do want the Windows app to be the one-stop shop for all of your remote resources. We've achieved that parity on our Apple clients, and we are soon to have that on Windows and web, and then Android as it is looking towards GA also later. So that is the end goal, and we're approaching it.
Perfect. And then, yeah, for folks that are using the Windows app, please continue providing us feedback. We actively listen for all the feedback, whether it's our feedback page, which is the aq.ms/w365 feedback. And also, store ratings for our apps are important to us too. John, I know that we've been looking at those. We want to make sure that we're addressing any concerns. So please post your feedback in terms of using the app. We definitely do look at it. I know John and team look at it fairly regularly.
Yes, thank you for the feedback so far. Really appreciate it.
Sweet. Okay, from YouTube. I applied browser conditional access to my Windows 365 Cloud PC, but didn't realize I couldn't access the Windows 365 admin portal, even though I excluded my Cloud PC, parentheses, an enrolled device, from the policy. I'm completely locked out of my tenant. That's a lot. Okay. I feel like being locked out definitely should be a support ticket to get you unblocked. I know that conditional access has the audit policies as well. That way it's not a enforcement, but it's if this were enforced, what would the login results be to prevent getting locked out of your tenant in the future? Is there anything else y'all can think of or want to advise here?
I mean, as far as conditional access type of things are concerned, I always think of making sure that there's a breakthrough option that you're always setting up first. As you go through the settings, I think it's one of the notifications that you will see. I don't know how apparent it is in your face about it. Like, make sure you have this. But it's one of those things that you want to make sure is there. If there's anybody in the tenant that has that breakthrough to get in, certainly reach out to that person and get some help in making sure you can get unblocked in this scenario. But yeah, that's one of those best practice things. Absolutely be, conscious of being secure. Those things are super important. However, in the case of you need to get into something, or at a point in time that you need to do something, they have an ability to do that. So those types of settings should be in there first.
Yeah, to your point, Robert, I remember I was testing some conditional access policies, and anytime that you add MFA or other enforcement, it does have that banner. But it pops up right before the area that says review and save. It pops up saying, "Hey, we evaluated that this could affect your user
Right.
through XYZ conditions. Are you sure you want to do this?" So yeah, I think just being preventative. Either what Robert said, find someone that can access, or definitely if it is your environment and everyone's locked out, at least file a support ticket so you can try to get that unblocked. One thing I do want to point out though is I do believe that that Microsoft All Up, Microsoft Entra, and Eric, maybe you can confirm too. I believe they're rolling out a policy to all tenants that anyone accessing the Azure portal needs to log in with MFA, just as part of Microsoft securing services for customers, for users. I believe that's accurate. I don't know when that enforcement's happening though. Eric, you're muted.
Oh, I don't know when, but it's a best practice not to get hacked, and MFA helps you not get hacked. So it's always good to ensure that not only your Microsoft, but if you're using personal thing like other products out there, I'll always use MFA as a safety to ensure that you don't get hacked. I don't know the exact date. I can. I know
either this month or next month. I say this month like there's 2 days left, but with the next couple of months, I think that's happening. There is a way also, if you need more time, I think there will be also a notice that says if you need to extend this a little bit out, you can do that so that it doesn't get enforced immediately at that point in time. But yeah, it is a deadline that is coming. And hopefully, as a standard practice, you were already doing that. You don't have to worry about it. But yeah.
Yeah, and for folks listening, there's definitely a lot of 2FA and MFA solutions that Entra ID supports. So that's in all the Entra ID documentation. I don't have any specific links for it, but there's many options with the Authenticator app, with security keys, with pass keys that are being available now. So there's lots of different options. So definitely take a look to see which ones fit best for you and your users, for ease of use, but also keeps that high security part. All right. Another question. I don't know if it was linked to this one, but another question was, I tried to configure auto logon / kiosk mode in Intune, but Windows 365 auto logs me on as a global admin that's signed into the Windows 365 admin. Any ideas? I think this is related to the
recently posted something about this.
Yeah.
So my teammate Shannon wrote a thing. I think we posted already. That speaks more specifically, I think, for Win 10, but about getting things set up for kiosk mode, and we'll see if we can find that link for you. He does walk through sort of the process of what that needs to look like. So hopefully that'll help to answer that question or really alleviate your situation right now. But yeah, there are things in one of our blogs.
Oh, yep. It's if you go to the Windows IT Pro blog, you'll find it there. So go to your favorite search engine and just type Windows IT blog, and you'll see it. It's the Microsoft community. I just gave our producers a link to that. Maybe they can pull that up quickly here. But if you go there, it was posted on October 22nd.
Yep, just a week.
It's called Connect to Cloud PCs from Windows 10 Kiosks using Windows. I got to open it to read Windows app.
Well, yeah. So at the very least, you can search that name. I think we actually did create a short link for you all. Yeah, I think what Robert mentioned and what the question was asking was kiosk mode. That way, especially for Windows 10, you can set it up so that users can log into local Windows and then jump directly into their cloud PC through the Windows app. So that ak.ms is ak.ms/Windows 365 kiosk mode. Kind of the other shout out is this blog post does focus on Windows 10 because if you have Windows 11, you have the Windows 365 boot feature available to you that has a guided scenario in Intune. And that way you can configure existing Windows 11 devices to uh, essentially do a Windows sign in. And then once you complete Windows sign in, whether it's biometrics, password, PIN, it automatically connects you to your cloud PC. So then you have two options there.
Yeah. To avoid the sort of situation of it keeps logging me into this account, if you have multiple cloud PCs, when you set up boot, you can go into the web client version and pick which cloud PC you actually want to boot into for the boot to cloud scenario.
Yeah,
it'll go
I
into
think
the
the three dots,
last
yeah.
environment that that you get into.
Yeah. So the three dots, there's these additional settings, and you can say one of them for like boot default.
Yeah, there's a checkbox that you can.
Exactly. Cool. All right. Well, I'm glad we got that sort of settled and sorted out. So definitely, I forget who asked the question, but please take a look and let us know how that might work for you. A question from Paulina on Tech Community. I read the announcement about the GA of HP Anywhere for Windows 365. What countries does Northwest Europe cover? So I don't know the details. I'm assuming there's some availability requirements between Northwest Europe and HP Anywhere, but I don't actually know those details.
Me neither.
Is she wanting to know where Northwest Europe is located? Like the Azure data center?
Yeah, I don't have enough details. Paulina, if you're still here and can just ask a follow-up question, like I'm assuming it is related somewhat with HP Anywhere's documentation availability. But if you can update us, that would help. Unfortunately, we don't have the specific HP Anywhere and partner experts on the call right now. Okay. So from the blog, how to sign up for the solution. Currently, HP Anywhere Cloud Gateways are available in North America and Northwest Europe. Got it. Okay. So, yeah, please, if you can, keep following up and asking on the tech community, we can direct our PM that manages some of the partner solutions. We can redirect them there to help you get that answered. It looks like it's a bit more of the HP Anywhere specific solutions, but our PM that partners with them can direct them and get your questions answered. So, oh, yes, Eric?
I was just going to lead off of what Christian was saying. It sounded like that's part of the HP Anywhere PCOIP connection. So one of the things about our partner integrations, whether it's Citrix, whether it's Omnissa, whether it's HP, or who's the other one? HP,
now.
Citrix. Yeah, those three.
Yeah.
They do not use the RDP protocol in our connection flow. They use, if you're using the Citrix integration, it's going to use Citrix. That means it's going to use Citrix clients. It's going to use the Citrix protocol. It's going to use the Citrix gateways. So it's the cloud PC is created using the Windows 365 service and engine, and you get all those capabilities, but the connection flow is completely on the partner solution. So whether it's Citrix, HP, or Omnissa. And so if you're struggling having connection issues, I would encourage you to reach out to your partner support, and they'll help you with that particular thing. But if you have problems with performing other actions on the cloud PC, like the remote actions or other deployment or resize or those other capabilities, then those are specific more to Windows 365.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eric. Thanks for raising that. Yeah, because the reason we had a lot of these partnerships was because we heard from customers like you that your devices are certified for, let's say, the Citrix HDX. And so we heard that feedback that you need their connection experience, but also that you like the ease of provisioning with Windows 365. So that's exactly why we have these partnerships. So Eric, thanks for the call out there. But yeah, and so again, Paulina that asked, please respond on tech community. We'll direct our RPM counterpart there to help get that question sorted out. Sweet. Another question on tech community. Does anyone have detailed information on what available bandwidth actually means when looking at the RDP connection details that Eric was talking about? Sometimes our users see above 30 megabits per second. Sometimes they see below 8 megabits per second. Also happens to me, and I correlated it with poor user experience when available bandwidth is low. But checking all aspects of a user's home network, all the speed tests, pings, etc., all showed a great connection. So I don't have all the details on how we calculate the available bandwidth. I'm not sure if anyone here has those details. If not, that might be something we have to follow up on.
Yeah, I don't know how specifically it's calculated. And if it's okay to do to my understanding bit in comparison of doing a speed test on the port is good. That's totally makes sense. But what other traffic is going across from that machine at any point as you establish your RDP connection is, I think, what we see in terms of available bandwidth as you are going over RDP, because at the same time, bandwidth is being used for, I don't know, YouTube or watching Netflix, if that's your thing. And I think it's looking at the time of establishing that connection, this was the available bandwidth that was being used to make that connection, is my understanding of what that is.
Yeah, and I think also the one thing we mentioned earlier in the announcements was the new Teams experience and the new kind of some core optimizations alongside the MMR Call Redirection. These are both things that are we call them optimized or offloaded. Essentially, your physical device is the device that's actually connecting to the call server, or for the Teams calls, that the Teams call and media servers. So you might also see that where the actual RDP connection is having its own kind of channel, but then when you're actually doing an active call, that's a separate connection your physical device is making to the internet to have the optimized audio video, to have those in sync and essentially overlaid onto your actual connection. That way you get the best of both worlds. You get a direct handshake with the server and all the audio and video streams, but the rest of the actual Cloud PC experience is being rendered and actually done within the Cloud PC. So that doesn't necessarily affect or directly correlate to maybe what you're experiencing with those bandwidth experiences, but these optimizations are a separate channel that maybe could come into effect if you're testing out different scenarios with that bandwidth.
And to Eric's point earlier in the discussion on the connection pane is where you can see if UDP is enabled. So that is, a great opportunity to see if your users are benefiting from that. I don't know the exact definition for available bandwidth. I am kind of pinging people on the side to see if we can get it. But there's also some great documentation on bandwidth requirements for RDP. And I will say that our team has actually gotten a lot of great feedback on connection information over the last few months. And so we're investigating how to make that pane as effective as possible moving forward. And this is another good data point on how we can make it better for end users.
Awesome. Yeah, so Patrick, definitely we'll see what other information we can provide if not on this call. So we'll try to find that on tech community keep engaged with you. But really appreciate the question. From LinkedIn, another question. We have enabled single sign-on for AVD. We want to check from insights how many users are using the single sign-on and how much time for login is reduced after enabling it. How do we do this? So that's a great question. Eric, I'm going to look over at you. Do you know if we provide anything in AVD Insights at all?
I don't know
Talks about
specific to
connection?
answer that question. I don't think we do. And if we do, then I'm not familiar with it. So
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
So I don't know how to answer that question. Unsure.
Yeah.
Yeah, since it's related to login, maybe there's some things we can see in the Entra logs and audits, but I don't know if it looks specifically like how quickly it's completing that logon sequence. But if you haven't looked there, that's worth a look, I guess, to see if there's any useful data points there.
Yeah, because I know if you set up AVD Insights for AVD for your host pools in your environment, I know that we do provide certain telemetry and stuff that you can query on and build visualizations. John, any chance you know at all? No?
Nothing from my side, unfortunately.
So that is a great question. Yeah, let's get back to this. And y'all are asking great questions today. This is great. So, I mean, we'll definitely get you sorted out. And also, if there's any documentation, just, for all you listening, we want to provide as much information in our documentation as possible. So if things like this aren't listed, this is great for us to, great for calling out. That way we can update our docs and then, point those questions back to the docs. So again, I do appreciate the questions. One thing I want to highlight is this question was specific for AVD. For Windows 365, I know that we have a couple reports. I think we have the remoting connection report, which has some details on sign-in times. So for cloud PCs, at least, I know that we have that option, and it tracks a couple different phases of the logon. Whether it's the actual connection from the device, your physical device, to the cloud PC, or whether it's the sign experience. Or I think it even has boot times, because we worked with Intune and had some Windows OS boot times there as well. So for Windows 365 customers, you won't have the same, potential slicing that you would have in AVD Insights, but you would have those reports in Intune. So let's see. The next question. So Karsten from Tech Community. Can I set Windows 365 specific settings, except provisioning policy, like RDS policy via group policy? Or do I always have to use Intune profiles?
If the answer is can I? Yes, you can. I think the more important question then becomes, should I, or do I want to? And that's really kind of up to you. It's one of those it depends answers, because then you are kind of exposing yourself to, I'm doing parts of the management here, parts of the management here, and leaving opportunities for it to get convoluted, or forgetting something's over here or something's over there. If I'm not mistaken, I think still group policy wins over MDM policy, so Intune policies, if there is a conflict, unless you change that setting on your end devices, including cloud PCs. So yeah, I mean, can you? Again, yes, it's a group policy, assuming that, of course, group policy is visible to, or you're setting it locally, right? Local group policies. Those are configurable that way. You don't have to use Intune. I think the benefit of being in Intune just becomes the centralization of management and knowing what each of these policies are doing. And then also with the ability to not just apply, but also, what's the word
Get
I'm looking
reports
for?
and status and stuff.
Yeah, like understanding those things, I think makes it a little bit easier overall to understand what's going on. But
Yeah, I was also thinking, Robert, that the other benefit of doing through Intune is that you're sort of future-proofing yourself, because if you're doing group policy, then you probably have a hybrid deployment. But if you want to start transitioning some users in their cloud PCs to Entra ID only, so Entra ID joined, not Entra ID hybrid joined, then those same Intune policies would apply to both segments of users. So not only do you get the reporting, but you're also hopefully seeing the value at Entra ID joined, joined directly to the cloud, and so that would be more flexible for you and have that consistency across experiences.
Agreed.
All right. So the next question: what's included in the M365 apps gallery image versus the standard image? So Eric, I'm going to point to you on this one.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have two images up there for our supported Windows operating systems. So if a version is still in support, it's available in the gallery image picker. If it's not in support, then we remove it. So we keep images available in our gallery that are currently supported is the key talking point. And there are two flavors. There is one that has M365 apps, Office, PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Teams, all of that. And there's one that doesn't. You can kind of call that the vanilla one. And so we recently had another version called the optimized image. It did not have M365 apps. We have deprecated that particular image. And so now we only have the M365 apps image, and the non-apps image is kind of what we call it. The settings between those two are identical. The only difference is one has M365 apps plus Teams, and the other one doesn't. All the settings and configurations in there are the same. So they include MMR. They include other various configurations that we have to make it a better experience logging in. So it we have a couple in there that forces OneDrive auto sign in. We have another configuration in there that says force Edge sign in. And so we added the most common settings to give the best experience, but the settings between the two images are identical. The only difference is one has M365 apps and the other does not.
One very technical question I have, Eric, if you know, is on the M365 apps. Do you know which content channel it chooses for Office, and or if that can get overridden by a company's policy? Again,
yeah. So our gallery images are updated monthly. So Patch Tuesday, we're all familiar with second Tuesday of the month. That comes out. We update our images and we do basically a slow rollout. So by the time that they are available for all Windows 365 customers is usually by Sunday, like Saturday or Sunday at the very latest. And so in those monthly updates, we update all of Windows. We update if there's a WebRTC component. We update, what else? .NET, kind of anything. So it's an always current image. And that's the same for M365 apps, is we make sure we have the latest monthly channel on there. So there's really 3 channels in M365 apps. You've got the current channel where you're getting multiple updates per month. They're usually about 2 or 3 a month, or the monthly where you just get those monthly. And so our gallery images are on the monthly channel. And then there is the semi-annual. And so, one of the interesting metrics that we hear is around 70% of all M365 apps customers are using either current or monthly. So that means only 30% are using semi-annual for whatever reasons. Now, there's a lot of advantages to using current and monthly, like getting the Copilot experiences, And so we encourage, and so does the Office team and M365 apps team, is to be on at least the monthly channel. So our gallery images include the monthly channel.
Got it. And I have one more question for you, Eric.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that for the gallery images that are available, if it's in market supported, then it's there as a gallery image. What would happen if customers had deployed, let's say, 21H2, and then while it was near end of support, or now I think it's out of support. I think 21H2 is, or maybe 20H2 is now. How would customers see that somewhere? Like if they provision cloud PCs, or if they had a provisioning policy that had that image that was going out of support, what would they see?
They would see. I could actually show it to you. Let me share my screen really quickly here, because this is really cool. We do a lot of neat things. Ava on my team is responsible for this. So let me get my screen going here. Could one of our producers start showing my screen if possible? If not, I might need to.
Yeah, we're seeing the teams at MMR Redirection.
I may need to stop screen sharing, and then I will share screen again. Let's see if magic works this time. You should see the Intune portal. Yes.
Magic.
Okay. So I'm at the Intune portal, and I go to devices, and in this devices view, go down to Windows 365. And now I'm in the Windows 365 node over here, and we've got various tabs up along the top that I think everyone's familiar with. If I click on provisioning policies, you're going to see I got a whole lot of provisioning policies. And in particular, there's this one. I'm going to zoom in here so you could kind of see it better. It's the image status. And you'll see that for this one here, let me move. I may need to zoom back out. There we go. Let me make this a little better. So 23H2 of Windows 11 is supported. So image status supported. Windows 11 21H2, it's in a warning state. So if I click on that, we're going to get an error message, not an error message. We're going to get a detailed message that explains the end of support of this was October 7th, 2024. And so it gives a little details in here. We keep the images available for at least 6 months, but you should certainly change the image on this, because if you wait 5-6 months and you deploy a cloud PC with that provisioning profile, that image is not going to be current. So make sure that we go and update that. And it's easy of just opening up the provisioning profile and changing the image. That's all you got to do. It doesn't change existing cloud PCs that were created. Any re-provisioned or new will get that new image. We recommend any existing cloud PCs be patched in the exact same way that you use for physical PCs. So Windows Update for Business or Auto Patch is the best way to manage existing cloud PCs. If you're re-provisioning or creating new, then it will use the image associated with the provisioning profile. So if, for example, here's an example of one. Here's our Windows 10. It's 20H2. This has been out of support for a long time. We say image status equals unsupported, and this went out of support a year ago. And so if you try to perform a re-provisioned or a new provisioning job within that provisioning profile, it'll fail. We just don't support outdated images. So we don't support outdated operating systems, like custom images. Also, we interrogate what version of Windows is in that. So key point being here is make sure that the images associated with your provisioning profile are still in a Microsoft supported state.
Right. These are really cool examples. I'm glad we did this. Also, for the folks, folks joining and watching, do you like these little live share and slides? Like, please give us feedback. Because if you like them, and we have the AMAs, we can definitely, you know, have those ready. Just like Eric is Mr. Prepared over here, making me look bad, but that's fine.
Keeping us on our toes. Absolutely.
I know. But no, that's really cool. I mean, I like seeing some live demos, especially the images. Like you had one in each state, which I like in my head. I was like, okay, it could be almost out of support, and then is out of support, and then you just slammed out of the park. So I love it. Cool. Well, thank you for that. We have 9 more minutes left, so please get your questions in, so that we can get them answered. And we have one for the Windows app. Do I have to sign into the Windows app to add a remote PC?
Yeah, I can take that one. So we talked a little about earlier in the discussion how some of the Windows app platforms do not support adding a peer-to-peer connection or a remote PC at this time. So Windows and web Windows apps do not support that. Mac OS and iOS and iPadOS do, and you do not have to sign in to add a remote PC. When you click add in the client, you can add an account, which will be the AAD account associated with the resources that your AVD or Windows 365 admin have procured for you. You can add a workspace, which will allow you to add on-prem RDS workspaces or specify a certain type of Azure cloud that you want to connect to for AVD. And then lastly, you can add a PC. And that's where you can put in the IP address or the PC name and configure any of the redirection settings for that PC connection. And that is not required to sign in for.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, when I first read the question, I was like, sign in. Like, don't they have to sign into Windows on that machine? Aren't they RDPing? You're talking about the whole Entra ID account stuff and the MFA and all that.
And while we're on the topic, this is a scenario that the team has thought a lot about because now we have 2 types of accounts really being managed in the Windows app. We have accounts that are your AAD account that's associated with our cloud services. And then we also have what we call saved credentials. So these are username, password combinations that are securely stored on the client and can be registered to whatever remote PC connection you want to auto-populate that sign-in. Gives you that single sign-on experience for saved credentials that aren't associated with AAD.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember that was always a really cool feature. That way it's not tricky. Like even the gateways too. I can't you just like save gateway information as well, John?
Correct. Yes. So you can save gateway and manage gateways, which is a really beneficial feature for a lot of our users.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I had a lot of customers as we were getting ready to get, Windows app out there asking me like, are we going to make sure that we have this? Because they were so reliant on having that used, in their case, coming from Mac OS. So yeah, super cool. And they were really happy to see that to be there.
Perfect. We have actually, John, we have another question for Windows app. So hopefully you have some guidance. What's the status of Intune MAM for Windows app?
Yeah, because we know that bring your own device scenarios are becoming more and more popular for Windows 365. So this is something the team's really investing in. Currently, we have the mobile platforms supported for MAM in preview. So that's iOS and iPadOS and Android. A bit more details on that is there's a lot of things you can do with an unenrolled device now with MAM. You can disable specific redirections on the device. So users can either access their local drive and clipboard or not, depending on the management state of that device. You can require PIN access to the app before connection. You can block third-party keyboards. You can specify a minimum device operating version before connection. And you can even specify a minimum version of the client app, so Windows app for the connection. And then lastly, you can make sure there's no like block jailbroken or rooted devices from connecting to the service. So we are looking into what we can do for the other platforms, but oftentimes we're restricted on what MAM supports for those particular platforms. Look at Windows or Mac. So we want to bring BYOD device to everywhere, but for now it's on mobile and preview, coming to GA soon.
Perfect.
That is so awesome. I'm going to add a little bit of anecdote here. I'm so stoked for all these things coming because I got to, I think in 2016 or so, at Ignite demo and showcase, here is what MAM policies do. And this is what it looks like for MAM without enrollment. And people were like, this is awesome. The amount of like the trajectory of how this has come all the way through out from just doing your mobile devices now on to doing it's like securing your connections to your Windows 365 cloud PCs. It's like a full circle moment for me, right? Got to do these things while I was in Intune, come over here and talking through and going, we're also bringing these features and security posturing for your connections to CPCs. It's just for me, it's super cool.
Agreed,
Yeah.
Robert.
That is really cool. I'm glad to hear that, Robert. I was gonna say, I'm glad it's full circle, but don't just like, all right, and now my work here is done.
I've got another circle
We need you.
around it.
Okay. So we have one more question, and then we will probably wrap up. So I think this is also on Windows app. When I sign in with my company account, it tells me that my system administrator hasn't provided any resources yet. I am the system administrator, and I have no idea how I can provide those resources. Where is the admin side of this app? Who wants to take it?
Intune is your admin side of this app for all intents and purposes. So, I mean, I'm not going to steal John's thunder here, but Windows app is where you're going to find the resources that are given to you as far as here's our cloud PC or here's our AVD host pool. Like this is where you can connect to. On the admin side, and for the sake of Windows 365 in Intune is where you're provisioning. So Eric showed a little bit earlier of some of the things in the Intune Windows 365 blade of things. That is where you are provisioning your cloud PCs. And once that is assigned to you of the logged in user getting into that Windows app, then you will see that provisioned cloud PC populate. So unless you have a license for it and you have a provisioned cloud PC, no matter if you're logging into Windows app, it's going to continue to say your admin has not given you anything because there isn't a cloud PC associated with the logged in credential.
Right. And then the AVD side is through the Azure portal, through an Azure subscription and creating the AVD host pool, app group, all that stuff. Anything else, Eric, that you'd want to add to that?
No, I don't have a good analogy off the top of my head right now. I usually have some fun analogies, but not for that one. I've been thinking, I don't have one.
That's okay. No worries. We're tight on time, and we have 2 minutes left. I'd love to go around the horn with my guests for one quick tip, like 20 seconds. What do you want users, customers to do to test out? Robert, I'm starting with you.
I'm probably going to take away what Eric usually says, and which is, go with Microsoft Hosted Network, gallery images, go with the full stack of, what we provide out of box, SaaSified version of everything they can possibly do, and see what works for you. For me, working with customers, that's usually the starting point and seeing like, where does this take you and where are you and where can we meet in the middle ground? So quickest way to get started and understand cloud PCs.
All right, Eric.
Windows app. If you're not using the Windows app, go use the Windows app. That's for everybody on AVD, and that's for everyone still using the Windows 365 app, which now is the Windows app. So whether you're using AVD or Windows 365, use the Windows app. I stole this because I know John was going to say this.
Hey, John, yours.
Force John to come up with something else.
Yeah, no, it's a great call, Eric. It is what I was going to say. I can add even more carrots, though, to why the Windows app is awesome, right? If you've seen the announcement, you've seen how there's a new favorites pane to easily access resources, but there's advancements already coming into the Windows app. One of them that we recently announced this past week is YubiKey redirection in the iOS and iPadOS client. So this is something that's not supported on iOS and iPad OS usually, where they don't usually have the APIs to redirect a smart card cert to your remote session. But we've partnered with Yubico to enable this functionality. And that's just one of the many things to come for the Windows app. So you really should migrate over now to get the best client experience possible.
Perfect.
And I think one of the other things is we're not investing in the old clients. We're investing in the Windows app moving forward. So if you want to be current, we encourage you to always use the Windows app. So use the Windows app.
Awesome. Thank everyone. We'll be back on December 12th with a special post-Ignite AMA. So excited to see you there. And thank you to all my guests. And thank you everyone for watching. See you later.